Before the Los Angeles wildfire happened, God warned people. Those who paid attention were kept safe. God also sent warnings through his people about the flood in America. The ones who listened didn't get hurt. We keep praying for everyone who lost family members and homes in these terrible events. Now, God wants to show us what will happen this October. Please watch until the end so you can get ready. My name is Latifat. Some people won't believe what I'm going to tell you. Some might laugh. Others might get mad. But if you listen carefully, it could change your whole life. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened to me. Please stay with me until the end. 3 months ago, something strange started happening. I was in my bedroom putting away clean clothes when I heard someone say my name. Latifat. It was soft and gentle, like a whisper. I looked around. Nobody was there. My husband was outside working on his car. The house was empty. I went outside and asked him, "Did you just call me?" He looked confused. "No, why?" I thought maybe I was just tired, so I forgot about it. But the next day, I heard it again. And the day after that. Always the same thing, just my name, always when I was alone. I started getting worried. Was something wrong with me? Maybe I was working too hard. We had bills to pay, the kids needed things for school. Life was stressful. I decided to ignore the voice. But now I wish I hadn't. I wish I had stopped and said, "Yes, Lord, I'm listening." October came like any normal month. I made breakfast for my family. I kissed my husband Michael goodbye. I got the kids ready for school. That afternoon, I went to buy groceries. I was driving home around 2:30 when everything changed. I stopped at a red light. It was just a regular Tuesday. Then, without warning, a big truck ran through the red light and crashed into my car. The impact was so fast. I didn't even have time to be scared. Everything went black. The paramedics told me later that they worked on me for 8 minutes. For 8 minutes, I wasn't breathing. My body was stuck in the crushed car while people I didn't know tried to save me. But here's the amazing part, I wasn't really gone. I was more awake than I'd ever been in my life. Before I continue, please tell me where you're watching from in the comments. It helps me feel connected to you. Also, please hit the like button. It helps this video reach more people who need to hear this message. Leave a comment and share what you think. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Now let me tell you what happened next. The first thing I felt was peace. Imagine the most peaceful moment you've ever had, maybe sitting by a quiet river or watching the stars. Now imagine that feeling 1,000 times stronger. That's what I felt when I left my body. I could see everything from above. I saw my car smashed like a toy. I saw the paramedics crying as they worked on me. I wanted to tell them, "I'm okay. Don't cry." But I couldn't. Then I saw the most beautiful light. It wasn't like the sun or a lamp. It was warmer, like the feeling you get when you come home after being away for a long time. The light pulled me toward it, but not in a scary way. It felt like love pulling me. Like when you were little and ran into your parents' arms. I wasn't afraid at all. I was excited. I wanted to see what was next. As I got closer to the light, it got brighter but it didn't hurt my eyes. Instead, it felt like every part of me was drinking it in. I went through what looked like a tunnel, but it was alive. The walls had colors I'd never seen on Earth. There was music, but not regular music, it was joy turned into sound. Time was different there. It felt like hours but also like seconds. I saw things from when I was a kid. I saw my wedding day. I even saw things that hadn't happened yet. Everything was happening at the same time. While I traveled, I started understanding things I never understood before. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why doesn't God answer some prayers right away? Why is life so hard sometimes? In the light, it all made sense. Finally, I arrived at a place that was more real than anything on Earth. Everything here suddenly looked like a shadow compared to where I was. The colors were brighter. Even the air seemed to sing. And standing in front of me was someone I'd never met, but somehow I knew him. He was tall, but not super tall. His skin was bronze, like he spent time in the sun. His hair was pure white like snow. But he looked young and old at the same time. His eyes were the most amazing part. They looked like fire, but gentle fire, like a campfire on a cold night. "Latifat," he said. His voice was the same whisper I'd been hearing for 3 months. I fell on my knees. I didn't plan to, my soul just knew who he was. "Jesus," I whispered. He smiled. That smile could have lit up the whole universe. "Yes, my daughter. We need to talk." He took me through a garden. But calling it a garden doesn't really describe it. Gardens on earth are like poor copies of this place. The flowers sang as we walked past them. The trees danced in the wind. Every step I took on the golden grass made ripples of light spread out in all directions. We sat by a river that flowed uphill. The water was so clear I could see to the bottom, even though it looked like it went down forever. Jesus picked up a stone and skipped it across the water. Each skip made waves of music. "This is what earth was supposed to look like," he said quietly. "This is what it will look like again when I make everything new." Just being near him answered so many of my questions. I felt peaceful in every part of my heart. For the first time since I grew up, I felt completely safe. But then Jesus stood up. His face became more serious, but still kind. "Come," he said. "I need to show you something." We walked to a huge building that looked like it was made from one giant pearl. As we got closer, I heard crying inside. But it wasn't sad crying, it was the sound of someone who loves deeply feeling pain. Inside, I saw something that broke my heart. Angels were crying. These huge, powerful beings with wings like eagles were on their knees with tears flowing like rivers. In the middle of the room was something like a giant TV screen, but it showed real scenes from Earth. I saw hungry children going to bed with empty stomachs. I saw families being torn apart by wars. I saw people hurting each other with mean words and actions. I saw churches where people argued instead of loving each other. I saw the earth itself crying because of pollution. "This is the hall of tears," Jesus said, and his eyes were wet too. "We feel every cruel act, every pain, every unfair thing that happens on earth. We cry because we love so much. And we cry because time is running out." Jesus led me away to a quiet room full of scrolls. They covered the walls from floor to ceiling, each one glowing with soft light. He walked to one scroll and pulled it down. My name was written on it in letters made of light. "This is your scroll, Latifat," he said as he opened it. "Every person has one. It shows your purpose, your calling, your destiny." When he opened it, I saw pictures and words about my life. Not just my past, but my future too. I saw myself as a little girl asking my grandmother about God. I saw my wedding. I saw happy moments and sad moments I'd forgotten about. Then I saw something shocking. I saw myself standing in front of crowds telling them about this conversation. I saw myself writing and speaking, warning people about what was coming. Some people were listening and changing their lives. Others were walking away angry. "This is why you're here," Jesus said. "This is why I've been calling your name. You're going back, Latifat. You need to tell the world what you saw and heard." Before I could ask questions, Jesus took me to another room. This one had mirrors all over the walls. But these weren't regular mirrors. Each one showed a different country on earth. I saw America with people arguing and divided. I saw African countries where poor children played in dirt streets but had the biggest smiles. I saw places destroyed by war. Every nation is making a choice right now, Jesus explained. What happens in the next few months will affect them for many generations. Some will choose light. Others will choose darkness. People can't sit on the fence anymore. He pointed to one mirror showing my hometown. I could see my street, my house, my neighbors doing normal daily things. They had no idea that in heaven, decisions were being made that would change everything. "The trumpets are about to sound," he said quietly. 4 warnings to wake up a sleeping world. After that, everything changes. Jesus showed me a calendar, but it was different from any calendar I'd seen. Instead of just days and months, it showed events, natural disasters, political changes, spiritual awakenings. They were all marked like appointments in God's schedule. "October is when it starts," he said, pointing to a part that glowed brighter than the rest. 4 trumpets will sound during October. Each one is a warning. Each one is a chance for people to wake up and come back to me. Each warning will be louder than the one before. I saw dates circled in gold, events that would shake the world and make people ask big questions they'd been avoiding. Some people would say these were just coincidences or natural events. But people with spiritual eyes would see them for what they really were, love calling from heaven. Jesus showed me the first trumpet clearly. I saw archaeologists digging in Jerusalem, in a place they'd dug before. But this time was different. Their shovels hit something that would change everything, an ancient scroll wrapped in cloth that glowed even in the dark underground. The scroll had writings that proved things people doubted about God's love for everyone. It had messages in many different languages, showing that God's heart was never meant for just one group of people. It would be on the news everywhere. But sadly, I also saw TV experts trying to explain it away. They would call it fake or say it didn't mean what it obviously meant. They would make up complicated theories to avoid the simple truth: God was speaking to them. I watched world leaders having emergency meetings, trying to figure out what to do. Some wanted to hide it. Others wanted to use it for politics. Very few just wanted to listen to what God was saying. Churches would split over the scroll's message. Some would accept its call to love everyone. Others would reject it because it challenged their comfortable traditions. The message about unity would actually create division, just like Jesus said it would. But no matter how hard people tried to hide or minimize the scroll's importance, its message would spread like wildfire on social media. Young people especially would embrace its message of radical love and acceptance. They would organize meetings in parks and public squares, reading the scroll's words out loud and praying for their cities. The more authorities tried to control the message, the brighter it would shine, like trying to stop the sun from rising with your hands. The second trumpet would be harder to watch. Jesus showed me churches where people who told the truth were asked to leave. Pastors who preached about helping the poor and loving outsiders would lose members. Leaders who wanted real change instead of keeping things comfortable would lose their jobs. But I also saw something beautiful. These silenced voices wouldn't stay quiet. They would start new kinds of churches in coffee shops, community centers, and people's living rooms. These meetings would be small but powerful, filled with people who wanted a real relationship with God instead of just religious routines. In some places, I saw real fires starting in church buildings. But not destructive fires, strange flames that burned on altars without burning anything up. Scientists would have no explanation. Some would call it mass hallucination, but those who saw it would know they witnessed something holy. The fires would spread to other churches, but only to those where people truly sought God with pure hearts. Buildings where greed, pride, or hatred had taken root would stay cold and dark. Young people would lead a worship revolution that looked nothing like traditional church services. They would sing in languages they never learned, paint prophetic pictures, and dance freely in the streets. Critics would call it chaos, but heaven would call it beautiful. These new worshippers would care more about feeding hungry people than building bigger church buildings. They would choose helping homeless people over hosting fancy dinners. Their worship would be measured not by how loud they sang, but by how much they loved. The third trumpet would show itself with something visible in the sky. A new star would appear, brighter than any planet, visible even during the day. Scientists would try to explain it, but their math wouldn't work. It would be in a place where no star should exist. The star would pulse with different colors, sometimes gold, sometimes silver, sometimes a blue so beautiful it would make people cry just from looking at it. And somehow, people all over the world would see it at the same time, as if it were shining just for them personally. Scientists would point their telescopes at the new star and get readings that broke all the rules of physics. Some would admit they had no explanation. Others would create complex theories to avoid saying the obvious: they were seeing a miracle. While scientists argued, ordinary people would have extraordinary experiences. They would have dreams and visions. They would hear whispers of love and hope in their darkest moments. Children especially would become sensitive to spiritual things, often knowing things they had no natural way of knowing. Jesus showed me classrooms where children would talk about angels as casually as they talked about their friends. Teachers wouldn't know what to do when students reported seeing lights around certain people or knowing things about their classmates' home problems without being told. Parents would be amazed when their young children prayed for neighbors by name, even though the family never told them about those neighbors' problems. The children would talk about heaven like it was the most natural thing in the world, because to them, it would be. The fourth trumpet would bring the most dramatic changes. In the poorest places on earth, supernatural provision would start appearing. Families with nothing would find food on their tables that nobody brought. Wells would spring up in desert places where no water ever existed before. But the provision would come with a choice. People who received these gifts and shared them freely would find the supply never ending. Those who tried to hoard them or sell them would watch the gifts disappear like morning fog. Meanwhile, in entertainment cities around the world, a different kind of battle would happen. Actors, musicians, and directors would start having spiritual encounters on movie sets and in recording studios. Some would embrace these experiences and use their fame to point people toward God. Others would fight against them and double down on dark content. The division would become so clear that entertainment would split into two completely different industries, one that lifted hearts toward heaven and one that pulled them toward despair. But the most beautiful part of the fourth trumpet would be Jesus himself walking among people in major cities around the world. Not everyone would see him with their physical eyes, but those who did would never be the same. He would appear as an ordinary person, sometimes a homeless person, sometimes a janitor, sometimes a child. Those who showed kindness to these seemingly ordinary people would later realize they had been visited by the King of Kings himself. Their acts of love would be multiplied back to them in unexplainable ways. After the fourth trumpet, Jesus showed me what would happen next. Governments that relied on power instead of justice would start falling apart from within. Not through war or revolution, but through their own corruption being exposed, like light shining into dark corners. Economic systems built on greed would collapse overnight. Banks that cheated people would lose everything in single days. Companies that polluted the earth or mistreated workers would go bankrupt without explanation. But I also saw something hopeful. New leaders would emerge, people who had been serving quietly in their communities, caring for others without seeking recognition. These humble servants would step into the empty spaces left by fallen giants and start building something better. The most amazing thing I saw was how quickly goodness would spread once it really got started. Acts of kindness would inspire more acts of kindness, like dominoes falling in every direction. Videos of people helping strangers would get millions of views, inspiring viewers to go out and do the same. Prayer groups would multiply faster than any social media platform ever grew. People would organize to clean up neighborhoods, feed hungry people, and care for elderly neighbors. What started as small gestures would become massive movements that transformed entire cities. Even people who never believed in God would feel drawn to join these movements, not because of religious rules, but because of the pure love they witnessed. The people God would use most powerfully would shock everyone. Children would become prophets, speaking wisdom that amazed adults. Refugees would bring spiritual gifts to the countries that welcomed them. People with the darkest past would become the brightest lights, their transformation stories changing thousands of lives. Traditional religious leaders would struggle with this reversal of expectations. Many would resist the idea that God would speak through unqualified people. But those with humble hearts would recognize that God had always chosen unlikely people to confound the wise. The world would start dividing into two types of places. Some cities would become beacons of hope where crime dropped dramatically, neighbors helped neighbors, and even the air seemed cleaner and brighter. Visitors to these places would talk about an unexplainable peace they felt just walking the streets. Other cities would sink deeper into chaos and despair, not because God abandoned them, but because they rejected every gift of grace He offered. These places would become dangerous and dark even in daylight. People would flee them for the cities of light. The contrast would become so obvious that nobody could deny something supernatural was happening. Finally, every person on earth would face a choice they couldn't postpone or ignore. The evidence of God's reality would be so overwhelming that claiming ignorance would be impossible. Everyone would have to choose which side of the line they wanted to stand on. Some would choose light even if it cost them everything. Others would choose darkness even though they could see where it led. The choice would reveal what had been in people's hearts all along. As Jesus finished showing me these visions, I realized our time together was ending. The thought of leaving this perfect place and going back to Earth filled me with panic. I fell on my face before him and begged, "Please let me stay. I don't want to go back to pain and struggle and worry. I want to stay here with you forever." Jesus knelt down and lifted my face to look at him. His eyes were full of compassion but also determination. "I know, my daughter. Everyone who comes here wants to stay. But your work isn't finished yet. If you don't go back and tell them what you've seen, how will they know what's coming?" He helped me to my feet and walked with me toward the light that would take me back. "Remember," he said, "you're not returning alone. I will be with you every step of the way. And one day, sooner than you think, you'll be back here permanently." This generation stands at the most important crossroads in human history, Jesus continued as we walked. They have access to more knowledge than any generation before them, but they're using it to move further away from me instead of closer. They need someone who has seen where both paths lead to warn them. He stopped walking and turned to face me. "Some will listen to you, Latifat. Others will mock you or ignore you. A few will even hate you for what you tell them. But don't let that discourage you. Plant the seeds faithfully and trust me with the harvest." I nodded, though I still felt terrified of the responsibility. How could I possibly describe what I had seen in ways people would understand and believe? As if reading my thoughts, Jesus answered my unspoken question. Many won't believe because they don't want to believe. They've built their lives around the assumption that this world is all there is. Accepting the truth would mean admitting they need to change, and change is scary. He showed me one final vision, people hearing my story and having different reactions. Some would cry and immediately turn their lives toward God. Others would search for ways to discredit or explain away what I said. Still others would simply shrug and go back to their daily routines as if nothing happened. "Don't take their reactions personally," Jesus said gently. "You're responsible for delivering the message clearly and lovingly. You're not responsible for making them accept it." "The process of separation has already started," Jesus explained. "People are choosing sides without even realizing it. Every act of love draws them closer to light. Every act of selfishness pulls them toward darkness. The trumpets will simply make visible what has been happening invisibly." I realized that what I had seen wasn't just about future events. It was about choices people were making right now, today, in small moments and big decisions. "Tell them," Jesus said urgently, "that they don't have to wait for the trumpets to choose. They can choose right now, in this moment, to turn toward light. And if they do, they'll be ready for whatever comes." Before I left, Jesus gave me specific instructions about what to tell people. "It's simpler than they think," he said with a smile. "Love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. Everything else flows from that." He listed practical ways people could prepare. "Forgive those who have hurt you, help those who have less than you, stop trying to impress people and start trying to serve them, pray not just for your own needs, but for your city and your nation. Most importantly, develop a real relationship with me, not just a religious routine. Those who are living this way when the trumpets sound won't be shaken by what they see and hear," he promised. "They'll recognize my voice in the chaos and find peace in the storm." I woke up in a hospital bed 5 days after my accident. The doctors called it a miracle that I survived at all, let alone with no permanent damage. Michael was asleep in the chair beside my bed. I could see he'd been crying. The first thing I did was thank God for letting me come back to him. But I also knew I had work to do. The memories of heaven weren't fading like dreams usually do. Instead, they were getting clearer and stronger every day. I knew Jesus meant what he said about me telling the world what I had seen and heard. If you've watched this far, it's not by accident. Out of all the billions of people on earth, you're hearing this message right now, in this moment. That means something. It means God has something he wants to say to you personally. As I share this, we're in the time of the trumpets. Everything I saw is coming to pass. But there's still time to prepare your heart and life for what's ahead. Don't wait for more signs and wonders to convince you. Don't wait for the perfect moment or until you feel ready. The calendar in heaven is marking off days whether you're paying attention or not. Start today. Start right now. Tell God you're sorry for the ways you've ignored him or hurt others. Ask him to help you love better. Begin treating every person you meet as if they were Jesus in disguise, because sometimes they might be. I learned in heaven that every soul has a deadline. Not for death necessarily, but for decision. There comes a point for each person when they've heard enough truth and received enough love that a choice can no longer be delayed. I don't know when your deadline is. You don't know either. It might be today. It might be next year. But I do know it's coming. And when it arrives, you'll want to be ready. The good news is that getting ready is easier than you think. It doesn't require perfect behavior or religious knowledge or a dramatic experience like mine. It just requires an honest heart that says to God, I believe you love me and I want to love you back. Help me. If you're saying that prayer right now, welcome to the family. If you're not ready to say it yet, please don't close your heart to the possibility. Keep listening for the whisper of your name. Keep watching for signs of God's love all around you. Because I promise you this, the same Jesus who spoke to me in heaven is speaking to you right now, through these words, through the people in your life, through the beauty of creation, through the quiet moments when you wonder if there's more to life than what you can see. He's calling your name just like he called mine. And just like me, you get to choose whether to listen or walk away. The trumpets are sounding. I pray you'll be ready to recognize the voice of love calling you home. Thank you for watching. If this blessed you, please like this video. It helps YouTube show it to more people who need to hear this message. Share this video with your loved ones. It's a great way to share Christ with them, and that's the greatest gift you can give to people you love. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do. It's free and it's a way of joining this great community of believers. Subscribe today and your life will never be the same. Until next time, stay blessed.